Welcome to Middle Grade Book Adventures, where every month here at the Kingston Library, we preview a new middle grade novel that we think you might enjoy. This month we're going to be looking at A Comb of Wishes by Lisa Stringfellow. This is the story of Kela, a 12-year-old girl living on the Caribbean island of St. Rita. One day, her and her friends stumble across an ancient-looking comb in a coral cave. Kela knows that she should leave it alone, yet it pulls her to it, and she can't help but bring it home. And far away, deep in the cold ocean, the mermaid, Ophidia, can feel that her comb has been taken. She will do anything to get it back, but knows that the magic requires that she make a bargain, a comb, in exchange for a wish. I'm going to read from chapter 4. A sharp crack made Kela turn quickly. "What was that?" Lissy yelled. Kela didn't know. The atmosphere had changed. The air weighed heavy and damp on her skin. And her eyes squinted in the fading light. A rumbling drone rose high on the wind. The crack rang out again, and Kela turned to see water surging in. In an instant she knew. The sound was waves banking off the cave. The tide was coming in, fast. Kela scrambled back to the sinkhole. "The tide's rising," she shouted to Lissy. "Hurry up!" Her friend thrust out her hand. Kela grabbed Lissy's outstretched hand, but her damp palm slipped and she fell back, scraping her knee against the rocks. The bag slid off her shoulder. She reached to catch it, but her fingers grasped empty air. The crack rang out again as the bag bounced hard off the rocks and careened back to the cave floor. Blood trickled down Kela's shaking leg. The wind howled and spit salty spray. "Leave it!" Lissy yelled into the echoing hole. Kela shook her head. She had come this far. It had called her. There was no way she was leaving without the box. She wiped her hand on her shorts, grabbed the wall tight before lowering her body back down the face of the rock. When her feet touched the bottom, she grabbed the bag and slung it across her chest before she climbed again. At the top of the sinkhole, Lissy grabbed Kela's hand and both of hers and pulled Kela free. The sky churned gray and black, and sand pelted their skin like needles. Kela and Lissy stumbled across the fence and slid back down the hill. With the damp bag thumping against Kela's side, they ran across the beach toward town. Back at Kela's house, they heard the shrill bring, bring of the phone from the kitchen. "Where have you been?" Pop asked when Kela picked up. "Didn't you see my note? I thought you'd be at the shop by now." His voice was sharp, but there was more worry in it than anger. "At the beach," Kela said, trying to catch her breath. "We were looking for sea glass." "Who's we?" "Lissy. She's right here." "Stay put. I'll be home as soon as George and I lock up. I don't like the look of this storm." Pop hesitated. "But I'm really glad you two are spending time together." The phone clicked and Kela hung up the receiver. "Pop is coming," Kela said, as she grabbed 2 towels from the closet and gave one to her friend. "What are you going to tell him?" Kela didn't answer. Instead, she went into her room, opened a dresser drawer. She pulled out a dry t-shirt and shorts for herself and tossed some clothes to Lissy. "Nothing right now," Kela said. Lissy frowned. Kela wanted to say more, but a deep tiredness overcame her. Of course, she wasn't making sense. Nothing made sense. They dried off in silence, peeling off shoes and socks and swapping wet clothes for dry. "So, we're learning a new song in choir practice," Lissy said at last. "I have the solo." "It's about time," Kela grinned. "Sister Evers didn't give it to Merle again." "Sadly, no," Lissy sighed and put on her best tragic expression. "Unfortunately, she's visiting her family in the States for the summer." "I'm glad you finally got a chance to solo," Kela replied. "You're a much better singer." "I don't know about that." "Look, you're great at 2 things," Kela said to her friend. "Words and music. Trust me." Lissy smiled, and Kela felt a tiny piece of her old life fit back into place. She had missed these easy banter with her friend. The front door jiggled. "I'm here," Pop called, knocking on the door to Kela's room. She opened it to let him in. Tall and dark-skinned like her, Pop dropped some of the gear from the dive shop in the hall. "I should take you back to your granny, Lissy. I'm sure she's worried about you out in this weather," he said. "We had to cancel our dives for this afternoon. Are you ready?" "Thank you, Mr. Hendy," Lissy said quietly. "I just need to collect my clothes." Pop had told her she could call him by his first name long ago instead of Mr. Boxill, his and Kela's last name. Lissy did, but her grandmother still insisted she add Mr. Go ahead, Pop said with a smile. I'll wait in the kitchen. Kela helped Lissy put her wet things into an old shopping bag. As Lissy turned toward the door, Kela grabbed her hand. Please don't say anything about the box, she said. Lissy stared at her for a moment, then silently walked to the other room. I'll be back as quick as I can, Pop said to Kela. The storm is getting bad. Kela nodded and hugged a towel to her shivering body. Lissy shot a puzzled look at her before she walked with Pop to the truck. Kela soon heard the rumble away. Dim light flickered in Kela's room. The storm thundered outside, and she hoped they wouldn't lose power. Kela glanced at the turquoise picture frame that sat on her nightstand. Their trip to Barrow Nature Park, lush with St. Rita's floral and fauna. Mom had leaned in to kiss her forehead, her dark locks tickling Kela's cheek. In her dreams, she could still feel the warmth of that kiss on her skin. She stood over the canvas bag. She imagined explaining to her father that she had broken a cardinal rule. She had taken something from a protected site. He wouldn't care that it had been on land instead of underwater. As a dive instructor, he drilled the rule into tourists on each trip out on their boat. It is important to him that she not remove shells from the beach. What would he think of this? A sick feeling churned in her stomach. Kela shut her bedroom door. The tall hanging mirror banged against the wall. She kicked her wet clothes out of the way and craned to look at her sore knee. She dotted it with ointment from the medicine cabinet and put a bandage on her scraped skin. The wind was slapping rain like the world had decided to turn down its volume. Then she heard it, the hum. Picking up her bag, Kela sat on her bed. Taking a slow breath, she put her hand inside. A stabbing pain pierced her finger and she yanked her hand back out. A ragged splinter cut deep into her skin. She winced as she dug it out, then sucked her finger to stop the throbbing pain. She peeked into the bag. The tumble down to the cave floor had damaged the box. Sharp fragments of wood jutted from the side. She twisted off the most finger-hungry pieces, then gingerly lifted out the box. The spongy wood slid beneath her fingers, and her heart ratcheted. Water sloshed. She pushed and pried, but no matter what she did, the lid stayed shut. Kela wondered if the box had come from a shipwreck. Miss Innes said that in the old days, the sea had become angry at the merchants who'd grown rich on the backs of Africans dragged across the ocean against their will. Storm after storm often battered the islands and ports, and St. Rita's waters bore the scattered bones of several trading ships from long ago. Currents were strong. Tossed in the ocean, the box may have tumbled for ages. Thinking about shipwrecks reminded her of her mother. Mom might have known a story about old boxes hidden in the sea. It had been her job to collect stories, mysteries, and magical from all around the islands. Mom's great-granny had been a storyteller, just like Miss Innes, and like Lissy would be someday. She had once told Mom about a girl, a long, long ago aunt, who'd been swept away by the sea and lost forever. When Granny Montrose died, there was no one to keep the family stories except Mom. She had made it her life's work to save them. Guilt still pinched. It was a job Kela hadn't appreciated. No matter how hard she wished, she couldn't take back what she had said to Mom. The slamming front door and the echo of her words, "I hate you," hung in the air. She couldn't jam the reply of that last morning with her mother any more than she could the heavy tightness in her chest. So what did it matter? Kela stuffed the box back into the canvas satchel. Her fingertips tingled. She couldn't fool herself. It did matter. Something inside the box had called to her, led her to its hiding place deep in that cave. But why? She glanced at her bag. Whatever was inside better be worth the trouble she would be in if Pop found out. If you're interested in finding out more and discovering if Kela can make her wish come true in exchange for the comb, check out A Comb of Wishes, available here at the Kingston Library. And if you like mermaid stories with a little bit of a darker hint, here are some other books that you might be interested in. Make sure you subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss the next middle grade book adventures.